In a short stretch of time from the mid-90s to the early 2000s, a relatively small group of people started playing around with this thing called the World Wide Web. They had the audacity to think they just might change the world. This project introduces you to the OG players from those hallowed days and lets them tell you what it was like and how you should have been there. Episode 24, we're going to get creative today. We're talking to Brad Epstein and Dorian, sweet, creative superstars from agency.com and iTraffic days. Ritesh, it's Friday. Wait, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Hang on. Now I'm back. Sorry about that.
The phrase of the decade.
Yes, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
I think the other one I see is, can you see my screen? Yes, we can.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
How are you, brother? Life is good?
Good. Life is good. Yeah.
Another week, another dollar?
Yeah. I'm super excited for this one. I like, we've had.
I miss these guys. I miss Dorian. It's just, they are just amazing. So let's see how this goes. This is going to be great.
Exactly. It's going to be fun.
Are we going to do the before we get them on thing? Come on.
Yeah, a little bit of housekeeping. So if you want to see more episodes like this, go to youshoulda.com. You can find back episodes. You can find podcasts. You can find upcoming guests. You can also, if you're watching today and you want to heckle and leave comments, feel free to do that. We encourage it. We'll pull your comments up on stage. Yeah. You can say hi to the fellas. And then finally, hey, enough of you have subscribed. We have a vanity URL. So if you go to youtube.com/c/you-should-have-been-there, you can get to this show. So
excellent.
How solid is that? We did it. We're influencers.
We are influencers officially.
Yeah. So speaking of influencers, I say we bring the boys on.
Yay. Oh, there you go. Look at that.
Gentlemen, look at that hat. I love it.
Love it. That's awesome.
It's a classic.
I wish I'd have kept mine. I think it got moved from the moves that we did, so I have no idea where it is now.
There's a lot of swag that I've thrown out over the years, but a couple things you hold on to because they're special, right? The theme, right? This is a special time and some amazing memories, so I still have a little bit of my agency.com. And by the way, I'm sorry, I couldn't wear it because it's too warm, but it is that, as you mentioned, the
iTraffic thing. Yeah, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that was your coding vest, as I recall. Eric Porres says hello.
He
says hello, and he's going to leave. So that's just sad.
Well, that was really good. Hi, Eric. Bye, Eric.
Anticlimax.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Here we go.
Well, I'm lucky just to be wearing a shirt, so that's all I have, and it says nothing on it. So I'm.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we have you guys just do a brief introduction, like sort of a 30-second intro on sort of who you are, what you're doing now, and then we'll dial back the Wayback Machine and figure out how it all started. Who wants to start?
Brad, you start.
Okay. All right. I'm Brad Epstein. How did it start? So I had a career at traditional ad agencies before I started going into the internet. So the job I had previously prior to joining iTraffic at agency.com was I was a direct marketing agency that's still around called Rap. So that's how I started, came up through the ranks as a creative director, then spent 3 years at iTraffic at agency.com. And then where I am now is at a really good gig where I'm the chief marketing officer for a company called Precision Medicine Group. And we are helping biotechs and pharma take breakthrough drugs and bring them to market.
Oh, cool. Sweet. Solid 30 seconds, Dorian, you're up.
That is my name.
Rapid fire.
Yeah. So I started out working on a fishing trawler, and then I got into the internet. That's how it started. Yeah.
Is that true?
No,
it's not.
No. I had my own studio for many years prior to working in the internet, which became my first gig was at Big Yellow, which was the New York 9X interactive yellow pages. Falls right off the tongue there. So branded, did the actual brand for Big Yellow, and then worked on the website and worked with a team there and developed that. And that was great because I was a musician and I was thinking small team of people, make something cool, stick with it, make it better. that fit into my ethos of how I was working. And then I think actually about the same time that Brad interviewed at iTraffic, I went to Moda Media from that point of view. And then 1 year later, I got a call from somebody, I think it was Brad. And it was like, hey, we're going to open up San Francisco. So that was a good run of several years. And then I went to Tribal DDB in San Francisco, and then over to GSI Commerce back on the East Coast, King of Prussia, that a company that eBay bought, but it was basically a white label e-commerce company. I had a full studio of 400 people to turn into an agency, which was quite a feat. But we did great stuff. And then Accenture for 5 years. And now I'm actually co-founder of a startup, which is going to be focused on the disrupting the whole hiring industry.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's in need of disrupting.
Yeah.
What were the so let's dig in a little bit deeper, and this for either of you. What were the big do you remember when you had sort of the aha moment of this internet thing is going to be big, like, whether it was before iTraffic or not, or
I do.
So,
I remember being at RAP at the agency. We had traditional big clients, AT&T,
I think it was called Rap Collins at the time, right?
It was called Rap Collins at the time. Good memory. And then this guy calls me into the office and says, "You got to see this." And he takes his computer and goes, "Look at this. It's a website for Zima."
No,
that really tells me what time,
That crappy drink.
And it took forever to load, but once it loaded and you could play around, you just sort of realized, like, half the people in the room thought this was nonsense, and half the people in the room really thought, like, wow, this is experiential, it's interesting, there's some cool design. But that was my first moment, which eventually led me to that was mid-90s. So that led me
that was the fridge. I'm pretty sure part of the role of this show is to correct your memory, but I'm pretty sure we built that site for Moda Media. That was one of the first, or we might have built a MasterCard site, but we were definitely involved in that Zima.
You're involved in that is hysterical.
Yeah, Moda Media's big claim was Zima.
Small world. I remember seeing that Zima site, and then suddenly going back to my office and working on the next sort of direct marketing mailer. Didn't seem quite so exciting.
Yeah, I bet. And so what hit you about it? So when you saw it, and now that I'm thinking, I think they built Zima. I think we built a MasterCard site for them, and then we said we were never going to subcontract again.
Yeah.
But what was it about the Zima site that struck you? Like what felt different?
Remember, again, the whole experience of being able to sort of go on a website, I guess, self-navigate, find some things that were entertaining. It was a soft drink site, so it wasn't like there was this heavy content. But look, I've been at a point in my career where I've done a bunch of commercials, I've done a bunch of collateral, direct marketing, and I always got excited about, like, the next new thing, and this clearly seemed like the next new thing.
And this just felt like like a thing you could enter, and because it was like really shitty CD-ROM, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, you remember, everybody was getting CD-ROMs for AOL, like coasters. They were just sort of everywhere.
AOL and CompuServe. I found the old CompuServe ones. I posted it on Facebook the other day. I was finally we're cleaning the house out, getting ready to be empty nesters, right?
Yeah.
And the crap I've got zip drives. I found,
nothing works.
Nothing works, exactly.
Yeah.
I found 2 old Macs. I found a Mac Classic 9-inch up in the attic.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I've got more laptops here that I'm like, at some point I'm going to refurbish those. And, no, I'm not.
How about you, Dorian?
It's funny because I think probably the most visceral part of it happened later in my career. I was still at iTraffic, an agency, but I think the earliest notion of it was when I was actually working at Modem, and we IPO'd and we all got stock. And I was one of the 2 people that sold the stock at $72 a share.
Oh, good for you.
And then it went up like that and then down like that.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Kyle and I were talking about it last night. We were
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
on paper, we were very rich once.
oh, we had billions.
Yeah.
I was one of those geniuses that bought more stuff.
just buy right in, drive that thing right through the wall.
I love it.
But the more visceral one was something when actually we had won the 20th Century Fox work.
Mhm.
And it sounds really stupid, but you remember the movie Dude, Where's My Car?
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
So we did
we
the advertising. We did a lot of different stuff at Fox. I mean, most people didn't really know about it, but we had one banner that had, the two characters, right? And one said dude and one said sweet, and it was on their back.
Right.
And that was the big joke, the iconic part of the Silly Bee movie.
That's right.
Well, we made them rollovers. And there was before you had to approve audio.
That's good.
And back in the days when you didn't have to ask to hear anything, it just happened.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That in like 24 hours got like 3 or 4 million interactions.
Huh.
And it's simple. Why? But I thought, okay, we're talking data points in the millions about interacting with ads. There's something much more profound than, oh, isn't that funny?
Right.
And then I thought, wow, there is really something. And so as a creative, I saw data for what it was. I kind of like pulled off the curtain of data doesn't get you anywhere, and I saw it for what it really was. So that was the epiphany for me.
Wow, that's huge.
That's amazing. I didn't realize that. Because I remember that banner ad. Roll over. Oh, look! This is great. Amazing. I didn't realize you did that. That's great.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
great.
funny thinking about the stock too. I remember too. I never had this aspiration that suddenly I was going to get the stock from agency.com that was going to be help me retire young. I always had my ambition though. If it happens and I get college tuition money, that would be the huge win. And I will tell you, it didn't even get that, but I did get bathroom remodeling money. So I did get a very nice bathroom out of it. A very old house. So
you spend a lot of time there. That's
memories.
I remember when we were in public, coming home after we'd been out celebrating at Harry's bar, I think, right?
Yeah,
and my wife was like, "We're rich." I'm like, "No, it's paper. There's no money here yet."
Well, that was even the thing about going to San Francisco, because I was like in Connecticut in a building with a bunch of people working intensely on these big projects, like for GE and stuff.
Were you
like
in
that.
Westport at Motor Media? Was it in Westport?
I started in Westport, and we
was
moved
in Westport
halfway through my year there.
Okay.
We went to East Norwalk.
Oh wow.
But that was a hell of a year.
Yeah.
And but when I got to San Francisco, it was probably more like what it was for you guys in New York, which was things were happening. People were going out. I mean, I went there and there was literally an event every single night of the week that somebody was throwing. Money was just flowing.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's something weird going on here. This is not normal. I mean, it was fun.
What year was that? Was that 99?
99. Yeah, I started in December of 99.
Yeah, I remember too. The outrageous double click events. Remember how big those double click events were?
Mm-hmm.
Just lots of swag, lots of drinking, lots of energy. Yeah.
And that was Chris Saradakis. He was one of the founders of it.
Right.
Who was the CEO of GSI Commerce.
Oh, really? Wow.
He took over from Michael Rubin. So anybody who doesn't know GSI Commerce, Fanatics is sort of the last iteration of it.
Yeah.
So sports clothing, sports merchandise. But we had 109 clients on e-commerce platforms from Toys R Us to Ralph Lauren. And my group was the content group that did all the experience for a lot of stuff, not for Ralph Lauren, but a lot of stuff. Yeah.
That's incredible, because I do remember, coming out to the San Francisco office.
In China Basin, where we had one office in one corner and then one office in the complete other corner.
Exactly.
China Basin is a whole city block.
Yeah.
And you had to walk the entire city block and up 4 floors to get to the other office.
Yeah.
Beer in the kitchen. It was a Friday afternoon or something, and everybody was out there, and it was fascinating to go out and literally, you're right. Anywhere you went, any restaurant, any bar, everybody was in the internet, and they were selling something on the internet, and they were going public soon, and all of these things.
Yeah, and the park, the ball field had just gotten built, but I don't think they were using it yet. And everything around there was just a parking lot. I think we had Cirque du Soleil or something in a tent behind us
in one of the parking lots.
In one of the parking lots. But ultimately, yeah, it was just like you go anywhere and it's like you didn't even have to ask. Someone's going to say, "Oh, there's another party tonight. You should probably go meet this person." It's like, okay.
Well, that was peak hype. That was peak internet, right? Like 97, 98 was where all the money started pouring in. 99, it was at the boiling point, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolute insanity.
In 2000, people got the news that this may not last very long.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, Brad, what was it like, in those early days at iTraffic and then flipping over to agency.com? But just talk about the atmosphere, what it was like, what you did, what was the work environment like?
Sure. I'll tell you a couple quick silly stories. So the first place we had was on West Broadway down in Soho. Mm-hmm. And, it was started by Scott Heiferman.
Yep.
But it's early in college, and I was about the, 40th person hired. And we had this loft space, in a really old building. And we would leave at night, and we always felt like ghosts were there because the floors were so uneven. All the chairs with wheels would just sort of roll together in different spots. Like people had meetings while we were gone. The floors were just so uneven. So that was an early memory. And I'll tell you a silly story because then I would ask you and people here what would they do in my situation, because it was a little more rogue and a little more outlaw, right? Some of the people that you're attracting, as a creative director, I was hiring creative people. I wanted people from all walks of life. They didn't necessarily have to be strict copywriters. They could just be great writers or good designers or, have some good video experience. So it was quite an eclectic group. And then more of the, I'd say, trained people started coming on board, obviously attracted by the money. But so I had this one situation where you decide if you would have fired this guy or not. So here's what happens. We're in this loft space. Everybody could see each other, no offices really. And suddenly I start getting a lot of emails. And people are saying I can't believe this is happening. Why would somebody send this email to everybody in the company? This is outrageous. What are you going to do about it? And so then I found what everybody was talking about. And one of my copywriters sent a picture of a woman, in her underwear and a t-shirt, bending over a couch, lighting a fart. And so this video of this woman lighting a fart with a lighter went out to the entire company. And so, of course, I called the guy in my office, and here was his explanation, because here's how things were back then. I said, "Why did you send this
to everyone?" Yeah.
And he's going, "Brad, I swear I didn't mean to. I just wanted to send it to Alan." And in those pull-down menus those days, there were still you could send to all.
Oh, right.
Alan was right next to all, and he flipped. That was his explanation.
And there, ladies and gentlemen, began the Me Too movement.
There you go.
Right. And so I said, "You realize?" So let me ask you. That's his explanation. Do you fire the guy, or do you not? What would you have done?
We would have taken at agency.com. We would have taken him out to the local full shilling bar and got him drunk.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that you'd have likely gotten promoted for that.
Yeah.
In the early days. I mean, we're in
the early days.
Time right now.
Yeah.
If it was funny, if you got yucks out of it, you were good.
Well, maybe I did, but may not everybody did. So basically, I didn't fire him. I did. I said, "Listen, I really got to think about this.
Send an apology.
You need to take the rest of the day off.
Yeah. But don't send it to Alan.
You need to send right. And you need to send the best apology to all.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I got to get all taken off the menu list. So
Exactly.
Yeah. So he went on with us for a couple more years. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. But we've heard stories like this all through these episodes. There was one about a creative director literally throwing their Mac at a client.
A 17-inch monitor.
Logo. Yeah.
17-inch monitor at the client.
Yeah. Like, really?
Well, I think what's interesting though too is that kind of got brought up in the conversation is that we all came from very different backgrounds. It wasn't like we all went to university. I mean, I had a interview at a major broadcasting company about 6 years ago, and they said, "Well, where's your degree in this?" And I said, "Well, do they teach it?" And they said, "No," and I said, "Okay, so where do you need a degree for?"
Yeah.
And that was kind of the world, but it was before you could even explain it to your parents, right?
Yeah.
What you did, it was just a time where, well, a bunch of people are coming together and they're trying things, and it makes money, and it's needed, and it's definitely the beginnings of something. But there had to be a certain element of competency, right, and responsibility, but also a certain amount of misfit.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't roll forward if it wasn't
right.
A little crazy.
When you two guys were hiring people, right? Because I remember Crazy Kyle, one day decided we had to hire 30 people or 60 people in 60 days. It was 30 people in 30 days,
30
right?
and 30, yep.
It's like, really? Are you mad, right? But you're right, Dorian. We'd have an architect. Like, okay, I'm done with architecture. I think I should do this web thing. Can you hire? And we hired them, and they were amazing IAs.
They were awesome.
Some of the best information architects we ever hired, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was, I think the big skill then was, someone would say, well, I want to do this. And then you had to figure it out. So you had to synthesize, all these different things. There was technical pieces, there were creative pieces, there were architecture pieces. So you needed people that were a bit nuts and could bring things in from different perspectives. And I think, as creative directors, your role is manage, they say herding the cats, but it's like managing the cats like on a regular basis. And
part of the fun of it was again, they were the opening innings, the early days. So a lot of the conversations were not should we do this? It would be, wow, how can we do this?
How can we do this?
How can we do this? Because this would be really cool. This would be amazing. And so I'll give you another quick story. So a lot of times with agents, once iTraffic got bought by agency.com, we had access to sort of, larger clients. And one of the clients there was sort of British Airways. Mm-hmm. If you remember, British Airways was the first to introduce their flatbed seat, only seat in business class that would go completely flat. And they had this wonderful commercial where the whole kind of image sort of turned from being on solid side to right side up. And so the question was like, well, okay, now we're going to do this online. We're going to do these bigger placements. How can we make that work? And someone said, hey, what if we got the New York Times online to turn their whole front page on their side? Just turn it sideways just for a few seconds. And it would freak people out, and then it would, turn right side up. And then you would introduce the chair. That'd be a great way to do it. And the New York Times said, we're not doing that. And we said, well, that's okay, because we called usatoday.com, and they said that we would. And they said, let me get back to you. So they get back to us. Seriously, they get back to us. And this was like, I can't remember if it was Babs or Eric Ball Peterson, but they get back to us and they say, what if it's not the home page, but what if it's the front page of the business section, which is perfect because it's all business travelers.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted all along. And it's one of the few times in my career when we actually did this. You went onto the site that day. The business site was sideways. It was sort of a mock page. It was a fake page. And then it turned right up and it played the video. But when we played it for the client for the first time, it was the first time I got an applause at a creative meeting.
Wow.
So
that's brilliant.
That stands out. And even the willingness of the media, to sort of try things.
The publisher, it is. That probably was the first homepage takeover.
Yeah.
And now it's normal, right? It's like expected.
Well,
this crazy
I think the thing about media, and we tend to not talk about them when we're creative, but I mean, media people are most essential to the creative process too.
Yeah.
They need to know what you're thinking
exactly
in order to go negotiate it.
Yeah.
And I always found that if you talk to them early in the process, you figure out, how much field do I have to play on?
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's a bit of a triangle, right? Because it's, your ideas, it's the media people, and then it's sometimes the vendors like iBlaster, which became Point Roll or whatever.
Right.
We did the first overlay for something. I don't know what
it was
for.
Yahoo. It was a Yahoo page.
Yeah, and
I remember that.
And they, you know, and it was literally like a phone conference where we
Yep.
just worked it out in like half an hour.
Yeah.
But those, I think. Sorry, Carl. Go on.
Oh, I was just going to say the other thing I remember about the BA, the flatbed thing. One of the other projects we did was, what if we took the interface, you know, that you use on the plane, and we recreate that online, so you could actually push the button and you could make the seat go to, you know, halfway down and go.
Yeah,
to
I remember that.
So I think it was probably a Flash thing we did, right? So as a business user, you could preview how to use it, right? We were so proud of that. I remember that as well. Like that was a big deal, that thing.
But, you know, I got to say, I think, you know, as the creative force that was agency.com was amazing to us. You know, all of you guys would just keep pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
What if we did this? What if we did that? Right? And nobody ever said no. Like, are you dumb? Everybody just said, okay, we'll go figure it out. Let's go see what we can do. So did that play a big part in your career? Have, you know, as you lived through those areas, have you kept going with that inquisitiveness, that pushing the envelopes thing, do you think? Because I know I have.
Well, Dorian, you want to go first this time?
Yeah, well, you know, I was telling Kyle on another discussion was that one thing that I seem to have found out everything I needed to know late in life, you know.
I'm still learning. It's
yeah,
okay,
right.
And
it's okay. I'm completely open to it. But one thing I realized probably about 6 or 7 years ago is that the thing that really drove me in all of this stuff, whether it was prior to or after to the agency.com and the iTraffic thing, was that I really have a passion for change and just seeing, you know, making change, dealing with change, you know, seeing how people react to it and creating a situation in which people will change, and then understanding everything you can because of it. Mm-hmm. And I realized that was it. And so, you know, I started out in music. Music changes people. Yeah. You know, so everything I've been doing in my life was really focused around that, right? An experience that changes you.
Yeah.
Right?
And that was, we did so many first kind of things. It was all about change. And it was a lot of the work we did was talking to executives about, well, what are the implications if you actually have to deliver good customer service versus just say you're delivering it, right?
Well, yeah, we still have a lot of that now. And I think that's what drove a lot of the innovation in, you know, I'm going to assume in Brad's team, definitely, or the New York office and everything going on there. And on the West Coast, we had a different animal with clients. We had some super sophisticated clients, and then we had ones that still hadn't done anything. Yeah. So, but you still had that internal dialogue. You could have the systems weren't hardened enough that someone thought they could say no. Right. Right.
How about
all you had to do is have the guts to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great question, Ritesh. So for me, I guess there's two things. Sometimes you talk to people and they say, you know, what does it take to be a great creative director? And I would say I can't answer for everybody, but to me, it's not about, say, being a great designer, a great writer, but those things are important. For me, it's about kind of curiosity and empathy. You know, curiosity about all the new things that are constantly being out there, but also curiosity about what makes people tick, and then, you know, empathy to try to put yourself in the shoes of the customer and do things for them. But I'll give you an example of curiosity, because curiosity comes into the play of data, right? You know, when we were doing this thing, you know, we were first starting to unlearn the power of data. And I remember we were doing a thing for Disney, and we were doing a thing for Disney, and you know that Disney has these Disney files, right? And one of the things we were doing was like some e-commerce and promoting Beanie Babies, right? And those were the talk about trends, right? Remember, like, people bought Beanie Babies. Beanie Babies were going to be worth
like 3 boxes of them still in the attic, you know, from the kids. Yeah.
Like another tulip craze. But anyway, we were happy to sell Beanie Babies for for Disney. And then what happens is, you know, we come back and we're looking at the data, and we see that, okay, fine, over the course of the week, you could buy 20 different kind of Beanie Babies, and most of them sold like 20 to 15 a week, but one sold like 500, 600. We say, well, what the hell is this Beanie Baby?
Yeah, exactly.
Why did it sell so high? And then it turns out that some of the Beanie Babies were selling for $4.99, and this one, for some reason, someone got the price wrong. So we had the price wrong at like $1.99. And so suddenly, but it was interesting data, because what happened is, you know, it wasn't really on our end, it was on the Disney end, so no one got in trouble. But what they realized is suddenly that their margins on Beanie Babies were phenomenal. I mean, Beanie Babies cost like $1 to make. And so suddenly it led to this whole, we didn't call it that then, but sort of this whole flash sale idea. So sort of being curious and looking at the data sort of led a whole new way to sort of make people think that they were getting a deal, and Disney ended up being very happy. So it's one of those happy accidents. It's fun to be on the lookout for.
So was Beanie Babies really the cryptocurrency of today?
Beanie Babies were the NFTs. Absolutely.
Yeah, the NFTs, because I think the Power Rangers were really the cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow, I haven't thought about this stuff in a while. You guys are great interviewers.
Yeah, well, all you need to do is dust off the neurons. They're back there somewhere.
Yeah,
there you go.
So, I even remember with you too, Kyle, you were always kind of curious, and one of the great things about your leadership then was, we'll tell a 9/11 story, which as you said in the list, think about things that you remember but that'll be later. But your curiosity and your enthusiasm was infectious.
Yeah.
I remember walking home from you one day, and we came out of the building, and you'll say, "You won't believe this. I got to show you something." And out of your breast pocket, and I don't even know who had breast pockets these days, but I think you bought it just for this. You pulled out the very first iPod I'd ever seen.
Oh yeah, with the click wheel.
Well, the click wheel, and you were so excited. It was something like, "Look at this. I got 100 songs, 100 songs on this thing. I'm never buying a CD again."
And the battery lasts for like an hour.
I know.
And you were right.
Yeah, and it was there was something about the tactical nature of that click wheel that was as magic as the fact that it held all those songs. But it really was it was the first time you got all of that physical media is going to go away. It was very much the glimpse into what we completely take for granted now.
I had the yellow Sony Walkman at the time. Around with the iPod.
The brick. Yes.
There you go. Exactly. I had a little holder for my belt. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You reminded me of something that another thing that I think was really important, and I think we had it. Advertising brings this to it, right? Which is, advertising agencies historically are about cultural awareness and sort of what's happening in the society and how do we impact with our advertising to bring the value of a product to them. But this fourth element of technology happening, we had this campaign that we did for the Planet of the Apes movie. Mm-hmm. And, we'd done the banner ads and the website was done and, here's another one, and it wasn't that mundane. It was cool stuff. Right. But they said, "Do you have any other ideas?" And I remember this day because Scott Sanborn, who was the head of account services, he's the CEO of Lending Club.
That's right.
He was sitting in his office and he had read something and he said, there's this geocaching thing going on. Now, I don't know if you guys know about this idea because it kind of passed really quickly through the organization. But I was talking to him about it. He goes, maybe this is an idea for the Planet of the Apes thing. And I said, well, what? And he explained it to me, literally sitting in his office. And I thought, well, why don't we take the props from the movie and leave them all around the planet to further the story of a parallel universe where apes were in charge, right? And he's like, that's a great idea. Let's go pitch it to him. So long story short, all of that happened.
Wow. No, really?
Yeah, all of that happened. And Fox came to us afterward and said, we've never had the amount of PR pickup for a movie for something ever as much as we had it for this thing. And
that's
then
amazing.
Poof, it just kind of disappeared. So it was great to be able to have those highs of just having an idea and making something happen, but it was also being aware of what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think we take for granted, now you can do cyber currency. Last week I couldn't. Oh, what's next? What's happening next week? It's like the pace was slower, but the opportunities were more profound.
And I think it was also that moment where it was like when Jason and Volker came rushing into an office one day saying, "This Flash thing, you got to see it. Yeah. It's you can move stuff around and it moves." And we're like, "What do you?" No. And I remember one of the tech guys going, "They're creatives. It takes so much code." And then they showed us something. It was some Puerto Rican kid who had done some
Gabo
Gabo
Tech. Yeah.
Yes.
Gabo
Yeah.
Corp. That's
Gabo
right.
Corp. Remember that with
Yeah,
the eagle soaring over, and we
yeah.
just went, "Oh my God, this
Yeah.
is amazing!" Right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing that was just fascinating.
I always used to tell people that have worked for me, I would say, listen, whatever we're doing here, it's only going to happen like this for a few years because something will change.
Yeah.
And don't worry too much because it's all pixels.
Yeah.
Right. Because it'll disappear at some point. And then I think about how I deleted Flash off my computer and now I can't look at any of my portfolio.
I know. Yeah. All the portfolios are gone. It's like having a SCSI connector to your zip drive. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Dorian, I've got a Mac Classic upstairs. I can send it to you.
Awesome.
Maybe, you know.
I have some 8-bit graphics I really want to look at.
There you go. But the other thing, sorry, Carl. The other thing is on the creatives that, you know, today you have creatives in an ad agency, and then you have these things called creative technologists, right?
Yeah.
In our day, creative, you needed to know a little bit of tech, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a piece of this, and then put it all together.
Well,
sort of, you know,
I could talk ad nauseum about this because in some ways, what happened to the creative discipline is that it became structured so it could be controlled.
Yeah,
you had UX and UI people, and everybody had to have a slot they fit into, and you make the graphics, and I'll make the page, and it fit the process, but it didn't fit the idea that you might have. And so now product design is still constrained, but you still have an idea in there, and you can put a personality in it and so forth. But now our lenses are very focused, and I think and I work with people now who are back to that. They're back to what you said. They're like a designer, the UX person, and they know coding really well. Yeah. And they just are really good at moving between those and getting something done. So they set it up and it's going to go live pretty quickly because there won't be any bugs in it, right? Yeah. Never.
Yep. Well, that was, I mean, one of the reasons we pushed so hard on multidisciplinary teams and co-locating different kinds of people was to force those higher level discussions and force awareness of the other disciplines. So even though we got increasingly specialized, we realized you couldn't just have all the UX people off in the corner because they needed to be informed by the art people and the project managers and the technologists.
Right.
The best work I've ever done, we over-indexed on collaboration, and it always paid off.
Yeah,
always paid off.
It was not always pleasant. Like it was sometimes painful, but it always led to better work. Because you know what it was? It was always the person in the group that didn't have a clue that went, well, wait a minute. Why are you actually doing that? Or we did it this way. And then everyone goes, oh, you know, those were amazing moments.
Yeah. Well, it's like being in a band. Like, hey, I'm thinking of this riff. It goes dun 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 dun. Dun. It's like that sounds. I could say Jumping Jack Flash to that.
There you go, right? And somebody else gets the piano going.
The other thing that I liked about Dorian, you know, our space of it was sometimes I felt that the risk was minimized a little bit. So right, so Kyle and Ritesh, when you were working on a website just seemed much more permanent. You know, and it had purpose. You know, but when you're
visibility,
right? When you're doing marketing to drive something to a website, it was sort of again, it was going to come, it was going to go, it's disposable. You could try new things. And Dorian, I agree, it was kind of the entertainment clients that you got to do the most fun things on. Yeah. So I remember what we had Discovery as a client, and they were doing
great stuff,
right? And so they had this thing called Discovering the Mammoth, right? They managed to put that into some shows, right? Because they had found some mammoth preserved in some ice, and you know, hey, could you actually go to a Jurassic Park? And we just had this goofy idea to say, like, you know, if mammoths are coming back, we just took a stuffed mammoth, you know, and did a little video of a stuffed mammoth just showing up in different cubes and on windowsills, and it was goofy and it was charming, and we just did it, show to the client and say, hey, what do you think if we sort of run this? And this idea is like, hey, maybe mammoths will be coming soon everywhere. You know,
that's great.
You know, visual reminder. And they said, yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Let us know. Let us know how it is. But we did it with other tactics that were more traditional, and that was the other thing, though. But we could always say, hey, this got a lot of interaction. But it was just the doing the marketing. The stakes were lower. You could do more experiments, and that was one thing I loved about it also.
Hey, can I tell you one of my favorite pitch stories?
Yeah,
of course.
Okay. So on the West Coast, we got the. Oh no, actually, Ritesh, you were part of this. It was Las Vegas.
And even better, if Ritesh is in it.
Right there, we were doing work for I think Mandalay or somebody.
Mandalay. It was Mandalay.
Yeah. And so we got through you, we got introduced to pitch for some work, and it took a little while to get there.
Yeah. LasVegas.com.
LasVegas.com. We did that. So we did that, all the advertising for that, and you guys did the destination. We also got to work at Mandalay. So with their collective, so that's Luxor, Circus, all Monte Carlo and Mandalay and and one other, I'm forgetting, Excalibur, which was the first one we went to.
Oh wow!
And they said, "Oh, you have to stay in the property to be able to do this work." And it's like all cigarettes and people gambling. It was like it's the lowest bar gambling to do there, right? Otherwise, you go to Old Town.
That's right.
And so. But we spent 6 weeks working with them on it, and it was all about improving their performance. We monetized the web for our clients, and so Excalibur had lower bookings. We took it from 3 to 1 ROI to 12, and they loved it. They were happy, and so we had a meeting, and it was every head of every casino in the portfolio. And, they all kind of looked a little like their casino, the way they dressed. And Luxor was 2 guys in black suits.
Wow.
So anyway, with Heather Crosby and a bunch of other people. Heather
Crosby, my goodness.
We presented the results.
Yeah.
And Jerry Quinn, I think, was part of that one. And the SVP, John Marr, was there. And he was an old school Las Vegas guy. Anyway, presented it, had a nice introduction at the end to say, well, if any of you other properties want to work with us, or work with iTraffic, they're just great people. And we're all in the same room. Great people, great to work with. And the results obviously showed it. And so we're just standing there. Pregnant quietness, right? Pregnant silence. I got $50,000. So that was one property. And then the other one's like, well, I got 75. Literally, they're sitting around the table.
In a bag.
We ended up with $250,000 in media spend in 5 minutes. Right?
A little bidding war.
Yeah.
The circus guy said, I got to fire people.
Wow.
But the coda to that story is that at some point LasVegas.com was paying us more than they spent on media, so our fee was higher than their media.
Wow.
And Heather, in all her brilliantness, she and I were talking. We said, why do they even have us? So she just went in and talked to Chris, who was the CEO, and said, you should just fire us. It's like, and just get a kid and just do this stuff without us, right? And shock. And it literally hit the Las Vegas network in light speed. Like, we got calls from everybody. Are you firing us too?
Wow.
Like, what's going on here?
Wow.
And so Heather and I explained to that guy I mentioned, John Marr, who's probably well retired by now. And he said, why did you do that? And we said, well, we just thought, we wanted to be honest with you guys. And he said, if any of the two of you need a recommendation in this town for any other work, you've got it from me. And that goes a long way. Yeah. So, the pitch was not just funny because they gave us money, but it was also like, we put our reputation on the line.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's visceral like that.
Well, what's so let's sort of carry it forward. I know, like, what did you carry forward from those days as you sort of moved on through things? What have you retained from, whether it was the joy of discovery or...
It'll never happen again, and that's why I drink.
Yeah, before you go there, though, I do want to tell a story of the Kodak pitch.
Oh,
remember that one, Dorian?
Yeah. Oh, that was memorable.
That was I think, probably the last pitch anybody ever did at Kodak before the company went belly up.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So wait, you made them go out of business?
Yeah, Dorian and myself. Yeah, the two of us.
We told them digital cameras, forget it.
Forget
Not gonna work out.
Right.
Stick with chemicals.
Yeah.
Right. Stick with paper film. Yeah.
People like pollution.
That was a great pitch, and they loved us. But then they called and said, well, we've got a bit of a problem with the company. We don't think we can afford you.
Well, the other sub to that, the great story about that was that we used the Atlanta office. I think the Atlanta office was closing.
Right.
And so the 5 of us, it was Bob Johnson, Sam Schrager, you, Heather, and myself, got together for one day and made an amazing pitch. Now we came prepared. And the idea was story sharing, which in essence was a social media idea before there was social media.
Share your story.
And it was the Olympics, and it was Lake Placid, and there was a luge, athlete, and he held up a picture of his grandfather when he won the gold medal, and his grandfather won the gold medal, and we said, "That's your story. You own the story of people's lives in an image. You've got to own." They were crying.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
They were crying when we told it to them. The way we told
Dan
it to
Draper selling the carousel wheel
before there was, man.
Don Draper, excuse me.
I think the end to the story is that Ritesh is putting it in the way that I think they tried to speak to us, but I put it into. We were actually behind when we came into that pitch because our written thing didn't really impress them. No. So we did a pitch that was just over the top.
Just all emotion.
We just said, let's just go for it. Yeah.
And they said, well, the truth of all of it is that, you lost, but you definitely came in first.
Yeah.
Right. So wait, I have a pitch. So I'll do the segue for you, Tom, because I got a pitch story, and something that carries forward for me is the reason I don't buy products from Bose. And it goes back to a pitch. And so the first and only time in my career this has really happened, it still pisses me off. So we get into a pitch with Bose, and they like our work, and it's a big pitch. It's 6 agencies, and they ask for spec work. And so we're in there with a lot of the main ones. And I remember we did some amazing work. We had an over-ears noise canceling headphones at the time. That's great stuff. And so we go and we make our pitch, and then they say, okay, you're in the final 3. Can you come back? And we have another product. We'd love to see your ideas on that. Probably know where this is going.
Yeah.
Right? So we go and we show them our ideas, and then we find out later, nobody got the business. Right? I'm sorry, the budget fell through. But of course, what happens? A month later, we start seeing our ideas. I talked to somebody I knew at another agency. I said, I know you pitched Bose. And they said, we're so pissed. They took our ideas too. So basically, very unethical behavior, took our ideas, and this infuriated me. And I wanted a bunch of guys in the agency, and I said, why can't we tell Adweek? Why can't we make this public? And they said, Brad, I know that you're pissed. I know it's wrong. But as soon as you start accusing people of stealing your ideas in a pitch, you won't get invited to pitches.
Right.
Well, that's a good one to take with you. That's a great one, actually. That's a great story.
It is tough, because it's the only industry that I've worked in where big ideas are presented to clients before they pay you, just in the hope that they'll then hire you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And it's worse in Europe. I mean, people spend like $30,000-$40,000 trying to pitch an idea, and they could totally lose.
Exactly. And by the way, this is one reason I'm on the client side now.
That's the lesson. That's the lesson.
So what you carried forward is you get a lot of people to pitch, give you lots of ideas, and then you just steal them. I think
most of my stuff in my last 2 jobs is from in-house. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I'm now a good client, but because I've been on that other side, I would say I could be a demanding but fair client. But try to be good. I try to be good.
And,
I think the thing I carry forward, and Brad's speaking about it, you spoke about it before, which is I just think you learn empathy in the client realm.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just the enemy. And for creatives, it's very easy to get emotional about that because rejection is very terse and terrible and all that stuff. Yeah. Most of the time, one of my favorite programmers, other than Ritesh, said, the only difference between you and me is that people can look at what you did and say they don't like it and it sucks. But people can't look at what I did and say it's no good.
Right. And either works or it doesn't. Yeah.
That's right.
He said, but I got to the point of saying, well, why did they think it sucked? What are all those strategic and priorities that I don't get to see? Yeah. And, my career has afforded me the ability to see both sides of it. And you really appreciate it more when you have that.
I think we had such an interesting culture of everybody I speak to who I stay in touch with, that curiosity. It goes back to the early conversation, the curiosity to try something new, not being afraid to do it. I come across so many youngsters at Ogilvy who won't speak up about an idea because they're afraid it might not work or they might not get listen to or whatever. We never had that. And every team I run, I encourage everyone to say, look, we've all in this and we've got to come up with the best thing. And if you don't like what I have and you got something better, let's go for it. Let's not, hide behind it. And that's the culture that I've sort of stayed.
Well, I feel like that spirit we're talking about hit sort of that corporate ceiling where it's like, oh, we need to just make money on the stuff that makes money, and we can't plan for growth, so we won't.
Exactly.
And we can't analyze our people the right way to figure out who are the ones to keep in the mix and who to keep out. So we'll just make cuts the way we, and that's the manufacturing model of approaching everything, right? It's like, I need less workers, I reduce. I need more, I increase. But who are the ones I keep?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I've had a tough time with that. Because I think it's just part of who I am is, I love the joy of discovery and what if, and this and that. And a lot of times I'm like, oh, here's an idea. What if? And then it's just crickets. And I just, I sort of long for those days back at agency where you were in a room full of people where you were like, what if? They're like, no, what if this? What if that?
Right.
What if, it was always that. And I struggle to find those pockets of human beings that have that same spirit as a regular way of being. So, I missed that.
The other thing I'll tell you is I mentioned that I can't talk about those days without talking a little bit about 9/11 in New York. And I've always told people that the 3 years, I joined like in January of 99 and ended up leaving at the very end of 2001, because obviously there was a lot of, problems in business at that point. But I felt like I really pick a number, but it was sort of definitely 6 or 7 years worth of experience packed into those 3 years. So in the early times, it was sort of the boom, and there was this amazing energy and the arc of it. And then, I actually call the years after 2001 kind of the waiting for broadband years, because
interesting.
Remember, because there were so many ideas that we had that were just, the bandwidth wasn't there for people to really experience it, And so we were ahead of our time in a lot of ways. There were so many things that didn't work, but so my quick 9/11 story is, so we had that office that was, really just right across from the New York Stock Exchange, just a couple blocks, from 9/11. And so I get out of the subway that morning, and the first plane had hit already. And there were people kind of running toward the building, and there was kind of paper and debris coming down. So I knew something had happened, and then got to the building, I went upstairs. I said, "You guys know what happened?" They said, "Yeah, there was an accident." That's what people thought. There was an accident. The plane went into the side of the building, and there's a big hole. And that's when a bunch of guys said, if you remember, we were on the 8th floor, but we had the 50th floor where you could go in the
cafeteria,
cappuccino machines, and you could see the towers because there were big windows.
Yep.
So guys go up there, and suddenly, about 5 minutes later, they come down as pale and as frantic as I've ever seen anybody in my life, because with their own eyes, they saw the second plane hit.
Yeah, right.
And of course, that was an explosion. That was flames. I mean, they saw it. And then what happened after that, obviously, is people didn't know what to do, didn't know where to go to the subway. Eventually, we went back to the building. We stayed there until the firemen evacuated us, and we ripped up some agency.com and iTraffic promo shirts that we had in a closet, wet them, covered our.
Oh, wow.
Then we walked from downtown to uptown from wherever. But the thing that I remember that was most remarkable about that, though, is how suddenly agency got calm. The very first thing was, let's make sure everybody's okay, right? And so suddenly we set up that quick website, and they're like, has anybody seen this person? And just within hours, there were a couple of people that were unaccounted for, and then they were all accounted for. So just kind of knowing that was amazing. And then being displaced, because I thought about this during the pandemic, right? We're all kind of displaced, and we're all
that's true. Yeah.
But that was really kind of my first experience with sort of being displaced and still staying connected and trying to do work and using the internet to do that, And then I remember, just two things. Just again, Kyle, the way you and Chan in your leadership was very empathetic at the time. When we all first got back together in New York, we couldn't get back into the building yet. They had to clean everything out. But was it a hotel? We was like in a hotel conference.
We were at Fleischman Hilliard.
No, we were in the Fleischman Hilliard building on.
And they lent us a really.
They lent us a floor basically.
And it was the first time we all got back together, and. You kind of talk about the business, and you let, I don't want to call it touchy-feely, but let people kind of talk about their emotions, and people stood up, and just, it was cathartic in a lot of ways. And I think I told you, like, what somebody said, like, Scrubbed and said, hey, you know, one thing that's gotten me through this is I bought this book from Dale Carnegie called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And even though it's a sort of like, you know, 70-year-old book, you know, it's helped me. And I bought that book like that day.
Wow.
You know, and then even afterwards, you know, when we got back to the office, you know, setting up counselors, but all voluntary, you know, to sort of go and you go to a room and you could talk and, you know, and to end this long story, one of the last things is I happened to be in a room with, like, you know, 12 people. And one of the people in the room was one of those people who said, hey, let's go up and let's see the hole.
Yeah.
And then witness with their own eyes, you know, with a bunch of other people, the second plane hitting. And he started breaking down and apologizing because he was having nightmares and still seeing that scene in his sleep, and then feeling bad that other people might be feeling it because of him also. And then a room full of people gathering around this guy and saying, like, it's not your fault, you know, and him being able to sort of just, you know, let that out. And then he said afterwards he still, you know, kind of had the dreams, but not as much.
Wow.
But for a company to create that environment and that space in the course of resuming business was, it was an unprecedented thing, and nobody knew if that was the right way to respond. But we see now that a lot of the things that happened then were kind of really right.
Yeah.
You know?
A test of our humanity is how to respond to those things.
There you go.
Know?
Exactly.
And that's a credit to everybody in leadership, and credit to the people who were who participated. And that's a great thing.
I remember staying up till, so we walked uptown and I was at a friend's apartment and on AOL IM for 3 hours, IMing people to check in.
Right.
And I remember a call. It was Chan, Kyle, myself, because we couldn't find the last person was Jill Updegraff, and she hadn't checked in. And everybody was like, where is she? And we had everybody looking for her. You know, it's like, where is Jill?
Right.
And then when she checked in, it was like, Carl was like, yes, everybody's accounted for, you know.
That was amazing because like we so didn't know. You know, it's funny. I think for me, one of the things we talk about in this show a lot is just the lasting relationships that have developed from that time together. And it was very much a personal, like agency.com was very much a personal thing. Like it was very much family. Even as we grew, like it I don't know, I felt personally connected to it. So when that happened, for me, it wasn't like a conscious choice of should we be more business or more touchy-feely. It was really like, is our family okay? You know, and again, and I think that's when we have our reunions, like it's sort of instant, you know, rekindling of those relationships. Like even just seeing you two again, I haven't seen you guys in ages.
I know, it's been
like
so long.
Instant thing. Yeah. And I think that's because of that. I think that foundation was already there. So when 9/11 happened, it was just a natural thing to say, hey, we got to make sure our people are okay. So anyway, but yeah, those are crazy, intense times. But
you know, I'm glad you kind of told me the backstory on that because I think that was the right kind of thinking. So remarkable.
Well, cool.
And so now you're on the client side stealing other people's ideas by giving them and Dorian is hanging out, you know, writing music again and being an entrepreneur again and trying to change the world still, right?
Yeah.
Look at that. Not much has changed at all, right?
If I affect 2% of the world's business with this idea, I'll change the world.
There you go.
Well, listen, we should talk because things are now booming again in pharma, and we're trying to hire people. You know,
can't find anybody, Brad. I've got 15 open recs I can't fill. It's crazy.
All right, so there's 2 clients for you, Dorian.
There you go.
Oh, I have no problems with finding clients.
Well, in other words, he doesn't want us as clients. That's what he's just said. You know?
Yeah, sure. I'll send you a URL to go to. It's,
okay.
.com. Don't www.don'tcallme.com.
he is in the early days of his startup. He still believes it's going to work.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm 9 years
it's-
into mine, and I'm like, okay, this thing's going to be good. It's going to be good.
I got to keep that optimism going.
There
Otherwise,
you go.
you know,
There
I
you
won't. I won't hit the world tour.
Were you with us when we merged in with Red Sky Interactive?
I was part and parcel of that one.
You
yeah.
were.
In
That's
San Francisco.
right.
Yeah. We got
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
into
I remember
the floor in on Mission Street.
Yeah.
And what a great group of people.
Amazing, right?
I
Julian,
still stay in touch with a lot of them.
Yeah.
You know,
Jessica Birdman. Who else was there?
Deirdre McGlashan. She's now a chief digital officer over in London. I saw her in London a couple times when I was living there. And, you know, Clay Jensen's over there, a bunch of people, you know, it just, they're a real tribe.
Yeah.
You know, but the best kind of tribe to have. You know,
David DeCheza. Remember Dave DeCheza?
Yeah.
I remember when they moved in with us and he showed me that the jerky thing that he did where he would basically send things to other people's computers. He figured out a way to do an animation and drop it on your piece on your Mac.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there working one day and all of a sudden the Mac goes black and then boom, this jerky thing starts flying and I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
David,
And there's DeCheza sitting in the corner going,
every now and then I check in with David. It's been months. He was at RGA for the longest time.
yeah, that's right.
Is he still there? Do you know? I'll have to check in with
I
him.
don't know. I don't think he's at RGA because Philip was with him, right? Remember Philip? What's Philip's last name? I've forgotten. They were a team, and there was Howard as well, who ran the interactive office when we were acquiring them. Yeah, Howard is the CEO of Siegel and Gale, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Well, you've inspired me. I'll reach out to him. So Kyle, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for being
Thanks,
here.
Kyle. Thanks for
this was
catching.
amazing. So good to catch up.
Awesome catching up with you guys and hearing the stories. That was just great. So thank you.
We'll be in touch. And Dorian, you and I will be in touch. More to catch up on.
I just hope we passed the audition today.
We're doing casting in July, so you'll get an email.
Exactly.
All right, gents.
Bye,
See you guys. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.